afternoon, everyone, and you're here for obviously our Fireside Chat with Ms Imtiaz. Just to set the tone, this is going to be quite a relaxed conversation. We're not going to go too much into technicalities. Obviously, you're here to hear his insights and his experience, and I'm hoping I can guide that conversation through. We will be taking questions in between, and I think the team will probably pause after a few questions and ask if the audience has any that they would like to ask. So just to start, I think most of the people here know you, but just to set the tone, how did you get into investing, and what are the key highlights of your career?
Thank you, Ameena. First, let me thank myBIZ for inviting me, giving me this opportunity to be in front of this distinguished guest. I can see a lot of big investors here, and they should be seated here. And also for Port City giving us this opportunity. And also I'd like to make a disclosure saying, and I'm also I'm an investor in the stock market. Most of my holdings are disclosed in the Colombo Stock Exchange through the top 20 shareholder list. So let me be straight about that. I don't think I want to talk too much on the individual stocks, but let me anyway give that disclosure. Yeah, how I started. So this happened while I was in schooling at Royal College. We used to play with friends, meet, and come to know about the parents, what they were doing. And one of my classmates' parent, came to know that he was an investor in the stock market at that time while we were studying. And I was a bit curiosity about what he was doing and came to what is about stock market and what investments he was doing. So that's how the interest came to me. And even today, that gentleman is one of the top investors since then up to now, having the major shareholder of the biggest company in Sri Lanka. That's how investment sometimes, for a long time, you have to be invested to make a good return. So with that, I started reading, and at that time, the market was very small in Sri Lanka. So I was one of the pioneers, I would say, from 1985, I started investing when the Colombo Stock Exchange started. I used to read a lot about the US market. And at one time, I used to get down the Wall Street Journal, the paper I used to subscribe, and it used to come to me about 2-3 years, the physical paper itself, just to read about it and understand. So that's how initially I started about coming into the market. And since then, it was slow start because markets were small. I would say those days, even the turnover levels were about just 20 million a day. Compared to when we complain today with about 2-3 billion also, market turnovers are not enough. So that was our size of the market at that time. And since then, it has grown quite a lot, and we have come to this stage today.
You mentioned your friend's father, who really kind of inspired you to go in. Do you have any other mentors who were key figures for you in your career?
In the stock market, initially, it was him. Thereafter, I've seen other investors who have come and invested and made a good name, like big investors like even Dhammika Pereira. All right, he started, I think, early 90s, if I'm not mistaken. I read his story, I think with about 25,000 rupees he started and wanted to test the market, what is stock market and all that. And since then, he has become one of the biggest investor, and not investor, I would say he's bought businesses. He runs a lot of listed companies. Then, like that, when Mr. Ishara Nanayakara, I think towards end of 90s, I think if I'm not mistaken, he bought Browns or LOC Group, I think at that time. And since then, he has also, it's like the second biggest company today. Other than that, I've been following like international players. I would call like a mentor, like I've been following him, was Warren Buffett, right? So I've been reading about him, learning about him, his trading styles, everything. So I would say, yes.
So you did highlight about Mr. Dhammika Pereira. I mean, obviously, he starts what, 25,000 rupees. and now is a major owner of IPOs, a lot of businesses in Sri Lanka. One advice give someone who's starting out, I mean, that's an inspiring story for anyone, right? If he didn't start off as a vinegar, eventually in the unit, what advice would you give someone is trying to start first off?
Yeah, so my advice will be anyone coming into the stock market to look at long term, and depending on your age, your capacity, you have to put a certain sizable amount for investing. I would say like whatever salary or income what you have, you allocate a certain amount for saving first before your expenses. Take it as a part of your expense, right? At least 10% will be good enough, and just start. And that can grow into a big investment if you take for a 25-year horizon. I would say like if you take compounding, they say the eighth wonder of the world. If you invest, let's say 100,000 rupees on a monthly basis, and if you get a return of 10%, in 25 years, that will be worth 225 million rupees. So we don't think that way, because you bring it down to even 10,000 rupees a month, that will be 22.5 million rupees. So, a lot of expenses we have, if you can cut down and start just investing, that can, when you are retiring, you have a sizable amount. So currently the stock market, now we are around 13,000, close to 13,200 levels at the SPI, that's the index. The highest that we have, all time we have hit is about 13,500. That was way back in January 2021. Since then, the crisis came and we came all the way down to 6,900 levels. There was a crash. And from there, we have come back now to this level. So if you take just before the election, initially there was a correction in the market. So I think lots of people were forecasting a NPP win, and they started selling in the market, right? But they didn't realize that, their policies that they will follow the same thing and there will be a continuity. Some people's prediction was right, but they started selling in the market and they have to come back into the market at a premium now. Because from day one of the NPP government winning the presidential election, I think the first 1 hour the market went down, and thereafter it started picking up. So I would say about 1.5 months, the market was down for about almost 2,500 points. There was a correction, expecting this result. But immediately after the win, the confidence was given. They continued with the IMF program. They kept some key officials like the central bank governor and the secretary to the treasury. And so they didn't make any major changes. So market likes no uncertainties. Yes. So with that, the market turned around and now it has almost gone up about 2,600 points since the presidential election.
Abhi, that's also key to get what people maybe don't get it wrong, but there's a lot of speculation, right, with what was going to happen, and that should get to selling off. Which do you think what's happening now with Sri Lanka, with IMF? I mean, Sri Lanka has gone through so much, right? And I think people forget that. They focus on maybe the last few years, but we have been through a war, we've been through major political crises, financial crisis, etc., etc., etc. Do you think this is the worst that it's been and it'll get better? And what kind of confidence can you give to investors?
Yeah, I think this is the worst we have gone through. In my 35 to 40 year business career, I started, I was about 2-3 weeks back, I was invited as a chief guest to Royal College for Islamic Day. That time I was just looking at the students who were organizing everything. So I was just imagining how they will be in 20 years, 30 years, how they will be, whether they will be abroad or what their kind of a position they are going to be. So I'm from 83 batch. Although I'm 83, I just started business about a year before. So you can imagine from 83 was the first, the riots we went through. So the period that I came out of school, we have gone through all the worst situation. And today, as a not only me, I'm saying the people are quite resilient, and they have come through all these real difficulties in the country. So I've gone through the 83 riots, then the 87, 88 period where insurgencies, then the 30-year civil war, then we saw the tsunami, the destruction that brought to the country. Thereafter, the constitutional crisis, with that the Easter attack, then we came to the pandemic, right? And again, the economic crisis. So all these good lessons that we have, with all that we have come back. So it's not easy for us to compare and say sometimes we are not gone as like Singapore or Dubai, or we are not gone to that potential, but we had all these things to deal with. So it's not an easy, like, like those countries. With all that, I would say we are done reasonably well, where we can do much better, and maybe this government has come on a mandate, with a very strong mandate, or with the first time I think I've seen like a 2/3 majority they have got. And even in the crises, there were a lot of, I've seen many first, all right, like, starting from the previous president being elected, a civil president, was not a politician who came into power. So that's the first that we saw. Then we saw he been ousted, like in Daragalia, that's the first time we have seen a president being chased off, right? Then also we have seen a president coming in with only a single seat, coming to parliament and becoming a president. So that's another first, right? And now we have seen a 3-member party becoming the president and getting the majority 2/3. So all this happening within just last 3-4 years, all this has happened. So hopefully this will be the last time. I think we are going to get it right. So also they are coming with, main thing is on to deal with corruption. So that's one of the main thing that has been blocking our country from going forward. So if that can be controlled, and if they can complete the IMF program, I see sky is the limit for our country.
We always joke that Sri Lanka is a perfect case study for any risk management, right? Because you've got them every single risk imaginable. With that, I think, should we try to open the floor to any questions that anyone might have? There's questions. We get a note?
We talk of halal taste cuts. Which companies are how big about that too? Because being you want to put it the companies it just stays. So what would you address to that?
So there are certain criteria for the whitelist. We call it a whitelist companies. There are about 285 companies listed in the stock exchange. So out of that, there were some whitelists were put out earlier, and that was, I would say, about 115 to 120 companies are qualified into the whitelist criteria. So if you go through the websites, or if you go to some of the, at the moment there is, whitelist has been suspended because SEC has come up with a new set of rules, and with the Sharia board, and they have come with their own standard. Earlier there were different standards were used. For instance, like our own company, we had a standard with 5 international standards, right? So, but now the SEC has come up with a new standard for Sri Lankan standard. So that will be implemented very soon. So it's in process, and so you will be able to follow that.
Investment and all, it's still about it, safety, conventional borrowings. Such companies don't take in conventional borrowing.
Conventional borrowings are allowed up to 33%. So under the whitelist guidance, conventional borrowings can go up to 33% according to international Sharia board approvals. That's one of the criteria.
You did touch on quite briefly about how investors look at a regime change. Now, with the continuity, do you think things will get better into investors and there'll be more confidence?
Yeah, so the main thing is we were in the middle of a IMF program. We almost completed now 2 years, another 2 years to go on that. and we have just completed the third review. So that has gone smoothly. Most of the performance, I think we have passed like without any issues, and some of these things, the parameters they had given, I think we have done really well. So, and I would say mostly 70-80% of the changes has to be done are already in the program, already happened. So the next 2 years, I won't see like much new taxes like kind of a thing coming or any big changes. So mostly already adopted, and the revenues are coming quite good now. So only the tax has to be broad-based, and that collection will have to happen. At the moment, the targets have been met easily. And another big area is the vehicle imports. So that was not there for the last 4 years. Hopefully from February for for private vehicles, it's going to be opened. So once that also comes, I think the revenue levels can easily, it'll be quite an easy thing for the government to get some income from that. So I don't see any difficulties. Of course, it's a difficult program, but this is, what I would say is like, a lot of people say why we didn't go to IMF on the right time in 2020. You can argue about that, but I would say it's a blessing in disguise, right? Because if you had gone at the right time, you would have just gone for another 17th program. They would have given us the money, and certain things would have been said, we would have done, not done, and continued. It's like would have been a patch-up work. But this time we were forced. We came to a situation of balance of payment, there were no reserves, and plus we couldn't meet the foreign debts, we couldn't make payments. So with both problems, we went to IMF, and they gave a difficult prescription, right? So, and now we have been following that very strictly, and now the earlier president also followed, the cabinet followed, and even the new government who have come in also are following that. That's because we can't change too much on that. And if you continue that one, I think it's going to be overall going to be good for the people and the country on a long term. But maybe in short term, yes, there are personal taxes have gone up, the cost of living has gone up, hardships are there. But I think eventually we'll come out very strong, like how India came out in 1990 after the reform program. They never went back to any IMF programs. Countries like South Korea, Thailand, Indonesia, all these countries have come out very well. So I feel this is the last time that we are going to the IMF, and if you continue this, we are going to have a 10-15 years of good growth for the country, and a lot of investors are going to come, and I see this Port City, right? Like this has taken about 10 years for the infrastructure and to get the parliament approval and all that. Nice, almost everything is done, right? So I think it's time to take off now.
That's my next question. And sorry, sir, thank you for walking into the hackathon. What did you think about? Beyond these beautiful venues, right? I mean, we obviously have to ask, what do you think about Port City and the rest of the opportunities?
I'll tell from my personal experience. I lived in Singapore for 12 years. While living there, I've been doing a business in Malaysia. So I was one of the early investor in the Iskandar development program in Johor Bahru. All right, so that was in around 2005. At that time, this was much bigger than this kind of a model they had put up, and we went and saw that, and I believed it at that time. This will happen. But a lot of my friends back in Singapore, they said, no, Malaysians, they talk, they come up with fancy ideas. This is not going to take off. Nothing is going to happen. They were very negative about it. But alhamdulillah, we just went ahead, and I thought for myself, like, it's something good and something going to happen. And we were one of the early investors there. And in a project, we went and signed up for quite a big number of units. I would say almost 3/4 of the first phase of the projects we went and bought. And we went and marketed it overseas. So that gave a lot of confidence. So we came in the papers there, right? As like Singapore investor, we have come and bought and, done all that. So I have seen from that time onwards how that Iskandar development progressed, right? From this kind of a model which was there, and within now last 20 years, I would say 100 or 110, more than 120% of what was there has happened, More than that was there. And apart from that, there was another project came during that period called the Forest City. That's little away in Johor, close to the port. I would say about 25 kilometers away from the main city. That's a $100 billion US project from China. And that was like, I would say 5 times bigger than the Iskander, the projects how they have done. And if you go now and see, almost 80-90% of everything is now completed on that. And we used to earlier we used to go and buy projects in a building like in Havelock City, 160, 180 units comes in a tower, right? We buy 25, 30 units and we market. So that's how we used to manage. But there was another project came called Country Garden. At one go, they put up 35 towers with 35 floors each, 7,000 units. And they just flooded the market. And it was like a huge thing. And, they sold it, went to China, and they had different scheme there. I think they got Chinese to invest. Now it's like kind of a ghost city. A lot of people are not staying there because it's all sold. People are in China, but they made an investment here. So I'm sure what we see here now today, if you come back in 5 years, 10 years' time, because this is a project, as I said, the what do you call that other one close to the port, which is about 25 kilometers, 30 kilometers away. This is right in downtown, right in front of the presidential secretariat, right? You can see it from the golf face, you can see the whole project here. Now, if this was in somewhere in Kalutara or in Gampaha, it's not going to work out. But I'm sure this will going to take off. So everything's in your hands now too. Correct, yeah. So there's a lot of avenues and companies. I think listed companies are going to invest here, and there's a lot of infrastructure areas that can be benefit. So lots of companies will benefit out of this project going forward.
So you spoke about the product that you invested in, which local friends were saying, in the dirt, we're not going to get a fault because your gut feel was correct. Have you had experiences, so those are good experiences, do you have any more of those that you could relate to us, but also things where things haven't really gone your way?
So most of the time my gut feeling has worked. Alhamdulillah. Because the first time that I moved out from here, I made a decision to go to Singapore, and then I went into car business. I was one of the pioneers of used cars exporting from Singapore out of to Africa and Sri Lanka and all other countries, which at that time a lot of people were not doing it. That was by an accident. That also happened by buying a car, and it became a business for me, understanding how the system works. And thereafter, as I said, we went into Malaysia, which at that time a lot of people are not doing. I was doing the opposite. From Malaysia to Singapore, there's 300,000 people cross the border on a daily basis to work. All right, it's a huge line coming into Singapore, and same way in the evenings they go back. So I was doing the opposite. I used to live in Singapore, and my office was in Johor. So I go straight to the immigration counter, give the passport, and I go. There's no traffic, and same way opposite the other side. So I was always doing the opposite, right? So that was the second time. Even coming to Sri Lanka, I thought always, it's our country. Whatever we do, although I had done big business there, we are not recognized that much. You can make the money, you can enjoy your life as a family, but if you want to give back something, you want to do, you have to come back here. So that's how I feel. So that's why I made a decision to come back in 2011, and I missed the bull run in 2009-10. We had just immediately the war was finished. We had a good run. I think over 150% the market went up. We had a lot of hope that time. But I missed it, and I was investing in Singapore at that time. So from 2011, I started building my portfolio. So market was not doing that great for that period just after the bull run. I think from 12 onwards, we didn't have a huge, big run. But when the COVID came, I had already built a good portfolio at that time, and the country was closed and markets opened. At that time, everyone had, business were closed at the country was closed for more than 3 months, or I would say 2.5 months. And everyone came into the stock market, like all the car dealers to all the PETA businesses. Most of the people had the cash and they came to the market, and we had a very big liquidity came into the market, and market just took off. Not only in Sri Lanka, it happened all over the world. It was the same situation. And markets from, I think, about 4,000 something, 2019, it went all the way up to about 13,500. So I was again, I would say lucky because I already built a portfolio for about almost 8 years, not seeing much return, but that gave me a big boost at that time. So that's why you have to be sometimes, we have to take that decision and be invested. If you can't be timing the market, like kind of a thing. So sometimes people say, stock has now gone high, now it's going to come down, we'll buy it at this level, or you're looking at 1 rupee difference and waiting. So if I decide to buy, I just continue, and I decide on a company. And for me, it's not buying, I won't say I'm buying shares. I buy pieces of businesses, right? I become a shareholder of a big business. That's how I look at it, because most of my investments are 5 years, 10 years, at least 10 years I've been like holding. And that has given me a good return. Rather than trading, of course, there's opportunity for traders, but you have to spend a lot of time looking at charts and different ways. But our market is still not matured enough, right? We don't have that liquidity enough. That's why lots of people make mistakes. They think they want to come to the stock market and want to see quick return. They want to buy something today, and 1 month's time, it has gone down 10-15%, then they feel, I can do my business is much better than the stock market. But people who have stayed in long term, like if you take like Mr. Warren Buffett, right? His story, if you see, like at 7 years, he started reading books. At the age of 11, he started investing. He had $140 personal cash, and he invested in shares through his father. Maybe at that time, I don't think you can invest at 11, right? So he invested that time. And since then, he bought a company. He thought this was cheap and bought. That was the Berkshire Hathaway. It's a textile company. Later, he found that business was not doing well, right? And even now he says he made a mistake in buying that company, but that's his main company today, right? But so he turned it around into an investment arm after that. So he gave up that business and became an investment company. And today he's one of the successful businessmen. At the age of 95, his partner was Charlie Munger. He just passed away a few months back. He was 99 years old when he passed away. So even at that age, 95 or 99, you are still, if you're alert and can be, this is a business that still you can do, right? So if he does a lot of reading and all those things. And his style of investment is just buying businesses, right? What he says, he buys businesses and it's for long term. And some of the businesses that he have bought are like 20, 30 years old and he's still not ready to sell. Like Coca-Cola, he's still holding, right? And he gets very good dividend over a period of time, and he's still not prepared to sell. And he was also at he didn't go into internet shares, right? But one of the shares that he went was Apple, he bought, and that became the biggest portfolio. 40% he was holding, but still now he's holding, but now started to cut down a bit, but still that's his biggest portfolio that he's having. So that's how you build wealth, right? So it's a long term. You'll have to understand about the company, you read about it, see how the management, are they good? The business model will stay for the next 10 years, 20 years, right? So like what he says, like if the market is closed even for, like our Sri Lankan market closed for 2-3 months, like how you buy a property, right? You buy a property and you don't look at the price on a daily basis, whether your price has gone up or down. So you're looking at 5 years' time or 10 years, when you really want to sell, that's the time you're looking for a buyer. Otherwise, every day you're knocking at the neighbor's house and asking, are you selling or what's the price is going today? So you have to forget about the price and just believe if you're strong enough about the company that you have purchased, you stay at least for 2 years, 3 years, you try to stay in that company and make your money like 100-200%. I could have shown you graphs and everything, but I think there was some technical issues I can't show, where certain companies have gone up like 1,000% within last 4-5 years, right? Like 400-500% companies have made. So like if you see I don't know if you have further follow-up questions, but I'll just expand on this. Certain companies, if you take the 1920, the total earnings in the stock market for these things were, I would say 150, 200, about 200 billion, that kind of a range. The crisis time, the 22, was the highest profits the listed companies made. 665 billion rupees net profits. So that was the crisis, because when the dollar went up, inflation went up, a lot of import restrictions, so a lot of local companies made good margins and profits. So that was this thing. Then after that, even with the IMF program, the tax going up from almost some companies from 0 to 30%. Some were from 14, 24, going up to 30%. And interest rates were like single digits at 7-8%, which went up to 25 to 30% borrowing. Suddenly people got caught who had huge borrowing, had to face that for about 1.5 years. They were this thing. So even during those periods, and now we are coming out now the last 9 months. Actually, in 23, all the listed companies made 450 billion profits. Right? The 9 months of this year, we have matched that last year's profits of 450 billion rupees were made. So generally the last quarter, the December quarter, is the best quarter for the companies. So I feel this year we might go past the 660 billion mark, and that can be the best year. And this is with increased taxes, with VAT coming up. Electricity prices went up, salaries had to be increased. With all those expenses, companies are still doing good. So that means there are certain businesses the listed companies is taking over. If you go to the normal retail market or the ground level, people complain, the businesses are bad, all those things. But the listed companies, that's why I'm telling, if you get into the listed sphere, there are a lot of avenues. Your business can grow multiple times. Right? Sometimes we feel if you hold our shares, our company with 100%, keep it within the family, we are good in whatever ways, can make money. No, the listed companies are making much bigger, with all the compliance issues, everything, and doing it rightly, because they have a brand name. Right? You want to China and you want to import, you will be recognized, because once you are in the listed, they can check your balance sheet, because others, most of the people won't have a good balance sheet to go and show them even.
Right. So you did touch upon nicely about building a portfolio. I think people are hesitant to look into businesses which they are not aware of or comfortable with. People like to stay within their own comfort zone. What would advise you to give to be the way at say?
Yeah, so you don't need much education. You have to just put in little time, spend at least about 2 hours if you can just spend to read, right, about the companies. You go through the listed for me, out of the 280 odd companies, I invest in the whitelist. So for me, it's much easier. It's only about 115, 120 companies that I have to look at. But if you look at my portfolio, I have only about 10 shares in my portfolio, with about maybe another 3 or 4, non-voting shares. So as a company, it's about 10 to 12. So it's much easier, and to monitor those companies is much easier also. And I'm quite focused on that one, and just make sure that, so someone coming into market, I think some people say diversification and you go for 30, 40 shares. It's not easy, and you're not going to make big in that. Right? You spread all your money in everything, and so if like one share is going to go up, right? So you would have made a small portion, like if you have 30 companies or 40 companies. But if you have good companies, if you select and you feel next 5 years these are going to do well, you can make the amount that you put in, it's going to multiply by that amount. Because otherwise, let's say your 1 million rupees, you divide by 25 or 30 companies. No, it's a small amount you're going to get. But of course, you can say if something goes wrong, but there are so many ways to check companies, whether they can go bad, those investments. There are a lot of red lights are shown, amber lights are shown much before. So once you are following those, you can quarterly results, earnings results are announced, right? Then the stock exchange put them, if there's a delay in submitting results even, that is put into a watch list, right? So if anything is going wrong, the auditors will come up with a qualified opinion. So there are many things that will be highlighted much earlier before that company can go wrong. So you have ample time to make sure when you understand. So I would say any businesses going wrong is very, chances are there definitely, but you have to monitor, if you strictly monitor it. In my case, I would say 90% of my investments are in stocks, right? And so you can say you put all your money in one basket, but I'm watching that basket very closely.
So you're saying do your research as well, like be very, say, as you say, monitor very closely, but then if the information is so much freely available, why choose to ignore it? When I was researching for today, I did see that in the tools that we use to be able to make those decisions are freely available. I mean, if one advice presents someone to be able to ask, I mean, information is there, but how do you access it and how would you use it?
Yeah, so information is one thing, data is available. If you want now, you can go to one ChatGPT or AI. Information is plenty available today. But how you are going to use that information is very important. Like even if you go to the CSE websites, all the results are there, the company annual reports are there, the chairman, CEO reports are there. You can read. There's plenty of things in between those things. But those are the things a lot of people don't take note of. In between the lines you'll have to read. Even research reports, sometimes research firms, they spend a lot of time and money to get a report out. It can be a 10-pager or a 25 pages. Right? But most of the people, what they want to see is what's the target price. In 1 second, they go to the straight where is the target price, and that's it, done. None of the other details are gone into, they don't read. So if they say share is going at 30 and target is going at 45, they are ready to just invest on that. But you'll have to understand that business, whether that target is for how long, right? And what are the details they are given, like if this happens, it can go, or if this doesn't happen, it won't go there. Or the journey can take longer sometimes, but you have to be prepared. But definitely it will get to that journey. It will get to those target prices or the value, but you have to have that patience and believe and stay. Markets are there, so you call it the Mr. Market, we can't go against the market. Market will always have pullbacks, it can go up, whatever, right? Now, for example, as I said, now the index is now 13,000 plus. If you take most of the international markets, now even US, last night it came down about 100 points, but it's at all-time high, all right? So all the markets are still at all-time highs now, most of the markets. Some have some pullbacks. Okay, India has pulled back about 10%. Little bit because of China, because China came up with a stimulus package and a lot of money shifted to China from foreign funds. But otherwise, as I said in 2009, with hope, the market PE ratio went up to about almost 28 or 29 times. So you don't question at that time why our PE ratio is high. Today our PE ratio, we are at around 8.5 now. But with the new earnings which have come out, which is not, I don't think is updated, we are around 7.5 times only. So historically, for the last 10 years, if you see our market PE ratio is around 13 to 14 times, right? But even 28, 29, if it goes, there's nothing to question. You can break all resistance and go there. And people asking why at that time there's no time to ask, all right? Market will just go. If it's a bull run, it will go, because if you have hope, if you think this country is going to do well, and next 10 years, foreign lot of investments are going to come. Now we are waiting for the rating upgrade to happen. So now the debt restructuring is done, the bond exchange is taking place. By 12th, that's going to be completed, right? We have been talking that for a long time. So that's almost done. Then the rating agencies, once, now that also I think some indications are given, today's Moody's. So about 3 notches going to go up on certain financial instruments. So if the country ratings also have a positive rating, which will happen immediately once the budget is presented, so foreigners are going to come into the market, right? Now currently our foreign investors are only about 10%. They are, at one time they were about 40-45%. So that means that amount of scope is there for foreign money to come into this market. The diaspora, right? Now they will start believing if the country is doing well, the government is doing well. You know, our people who have gone out have made huge amount of money. All right. Now you see the foreign, even the workers who are sending money is about $7 billion, which is over 2 trillion. We are getting money is coming into the system. All right. Likewise, now the systems are going to change. All right. Now, digitalization is going to take place. All right. So with that, even the gray market, which is a huge amount in our businesses, I think in our country, which is even not even captured in the GDP. All right. So if those kinds of businesses are going to also fall in line, so I would say there's so much of scope. So as I said, they want the diaspora. If you want just 2 or 3 investors think of bringing $1, $2, $3 billion, that amount of money people have earned, they can easily come into the country and start. So that itself is more than enough, because our market cap is about 5 trillion now, which is only about 16, 17 billion dollars. So if you take the international markets, we are peanuts, nothing, right? If you take the, let's say for America, just to see, get an understanding, the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange put together is about $55 trillion, right? In trillions. And their turnover is like about $100 billion a day. Our market cap is only 16 billion. Their turnover is 100 billion. Like, okay, take India, it's about 5 trillion. So, and if you take India, about 10 years ago, they're not that big. So once they hit a certain trillion, I think the last trillion from 4 to 5, they got it in six months. So once you come to a certain level, then it's like, it's a takeoff, like, it just keeps going.
So we need to have confidence in our own country and hope that, and then under you sense of hope, I think there was discussion, I would say, last week where, certain groups were saying government is going to fail. So one thing he said was, well, we're all on this ship together, right? If you hope for your president and your government to fail, you are putting more in the ship that you're rated in the right? So, I mean, if you want to drown, then yeah, go ahead and do that. But right now, we all have to look for a better future for us and then hope for. And as you said 10 years ago, so many other countries were in different positions, right? So we have hopefully a more hopeful future. So
it's another different asset class. A lot of youngsters have gone into that. It's the future, I think. So crypto now, lots of people had a lot of beliefs. Like, if you take Bitcoin, I know people were saying it will go to 100,000, it will go to $1 million, and they had that belief, right? Even the Bitcoin went to 60 plus, and then came down all the way down to about 17. But still they said, no, it's going to go 100 and 1 million. And we are on the verge of hitting almost 100,000 now. It's 95, 96,000, if I'm right? So you never know even it will go to $1 million, as they say it has now from, I don't know, it started at $1, I don't know, and now it has come up to almost 100,000. So they say certain Bitcoins, I mean, certain currencies are limited. I mean, like for Bitcoin. But there are so many other, thousands of other cryptocurrencies that come to the market. So that's also flooding. But there are certain regulatory issues also there in certain countries. Whether they are allowed or not is also there. But I think, even some of the countries are coming with their own currencies also. So they also will come. It will have everyone has the share, so it's not only, we are talking about shares. Gold has almost hit this thing. So if you take the market cap of cryptocurrencies is about $3 to $4 trillion, right? If you take the stock market, it's about $120 trillion is the world global market. So it's not, if you take a company in New York, in US, if you take Apple, it's about $3.5 billion. So which is one company equal to the whole crypto market, right? So if you take the companies that are the 7 magnificent company, they say now, Amazon, Alphabet, then you have the Microsoft, Meta, Tesla, and Nvidia. Those 7 to put together is about 18 trillion dollars is the market cap. So which is about almost 60% of the NASDAQ. Right? So that's the kind of a level that they have gone to. So that's how companies have grown. So for shares, there's an underlying asset, there's something. There's a business and you can see it, there's transparency. But like in Bitcoin, you don't know who are the owners or whether, what kind of this thing is all on the internet. Sometimes I heard story, yesterday I was reading something where the ex-wife had thrown the suitcase or something on the hardware and, lost 460 million pounds or something. They had about 8,000 bitcoins saved inside that and lost it.
And to that or crypto, I was in Dubai 2 days ago for a meeting at the Nevidomir Investment Support City. So one of them said that Kabi pay crypto. So what I thought was they said it Dubai SMP, a land a developer. So this the payment 80 million was at all crypto. So I said in our country there are regulations for that. But also one question is like if Trump coming to power, I think maybe not last, I think crypto will be more serious now. That's what I think. So just want to be in on that as well.
I think what you were saying was Trump and Elon Musk being the buddies that they are, it's probably be a more viable option now, become probably allowed to become more popular. And what are your thoughts on that? Is that the question that you had? Somewhat. Oh, okay. It was a statement. Okay, fine. Good. All right. Do we have any more questions from the audience? I mean, I would just say, stemming from that, we've had changes globally over the last few months, right? Different governments coming in and different, did people think Trump would come back in? It was 50-50, right? And then obviously with the Labour government coming in, Tory government, there's a lot of perception that all these events have an effect on our markets. And is that true?
I don't think so. Our market, local market, is that much dependent on the global markets. I, of course, just follow to keep a knowledge this thing. But now lots of markets in the Asian markets, if you take the Hong Kong, Singapore, or Japan, other markets, what happens tonight is mirrored there in those markets the following day. But in our markets, it's not that much. We are not matured to that levels and not that amount of foreign investments are here. So like Trump coming, some people betted on that. I don't know, even Warren Buffett has a cash chest of about $350 billion he's keeping cash, right? So I don't know whether he also thought maybe Kamala Harris and took the money out. So now maybe the markets have gone up. So now Elon Musk really, helped him by tweets and giving cash and all those things. And his investments and the value just went up after the elections. Now today he has become the richest person with about 350 billion worth. So there's a lot of hope for Tesla and all whatever that is doing, the SpaceX and other things that is, and things going to even start the phone also. might give another
His
competition
hands
to
are in
Apple.
so many different pots, so we're not really sure what he's going to come up with
Yeah.
next. But how do you compare our market to matured markets? And then, like, how, I mean, people, I mean, as we keep saying, you know, we're a small market, we're a closed market, but what is the future for us?
Yeah, so as I said, now our FDIs have been low. Like, we have been not doing about less than $1 billion, $700-800 million averaged, I think. So there's a lot of scope in that area now, right? With IMF program completing, a lot of focus will come back into Sri Lanka. Foreign investments will come. FTAs are going to be signed. So that's now with Trump coming in, the certain businesses, certain countries are going to be taxed, like China, Mexico, Canada, all those countries. Additional taxes are going to come because they are going to dump a lot of things they've been dumping in America, so now he wants to put additional taxes to them. So maybe Sri Lanka can benefit out of those kind of situations, like, even, we can, countries like China can come and open factories here and route it, that can be one, or through trade agreements that there also can happen. Likewise, I feel since our country has not taken off to the potential of like Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, all of those countries, how Vietnam, we're not done, we are going to take off with this port city plus all the other thing. We have a lot of potential, and this time the sentiments have changed with the elections, right? Now, earlier also the same thing was happening under President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Same thing is continued, but the people look at it now in a different way. They don't mind even giving more time to sacrifice, all that is happening. So I think they will do the right thing, especially on corruption. That's the most important thing. If you can tackle the corruption, a lot of investments can flow into our country, because because of corruption, a lot of investments didn't come, and they all went back. So that will open up, I feel. So that itself can be a few $1 billion worth of investments can start coming in.
I think the government's commitment to, or perceived commitment to tackling corruption is a huge investment initiative, because a lot of investors see what's the point of investing their money here when, one, they don't know where the money is going into. Companies are not allowed to work, or ease of doing business is not there, right? So the Colombo Stock Exchange is driving for more listings into the market. And what is your advice to a private company to look at these listing options?
As I said earlier, there are a lot of advantages to come to be listed. Of course, earlier, they had a tax concession, but that was taken off with the IMF, this thing coming in, that has been removed. But other than that, the branding, right, or you can take family succession plan, right, for businesses to change hands, like that is an easy route if you, this thing. Then you bring in independent, like, governance and board members, all that. So that itself brings in a lot of the perception about the company is looked at in a different way. So once you are listed, there's so many people come to know about that company. So your marketability of a brand or anything becomes, they also will be part and parcel of that. So that's a good thing. So I think a lot of business people I can see who have big businesses, they shouldn't be frightened about like compliance issue. Compliance is something good, because if you don't have that compliance, lots of issues are there. Like, we might be sometimes leakages, like, but all that will be highlighted. We have good accountants will be there. Then, at this moment, you might not have good accountants because it's a family, we'll be taking it easy. But if you go into that sphere, like, definitely you'll have to increase this. So I see another big IPO going to be there. One of the IPO which was held up, I think LTL is also might come on board soon. We need big investments to come to the market. That has been lacking for a long time, because we are talking of like 280 plus companies for the last 15-20 years, right? It's 10 companies going out, 10 companies coming in. So we are just around the same numbers. We are not grown like, to like to 300, 400, 500 levels. So hopefully things can change and move forward. So that's why there's a lot of potential. Our base is very low, right? And everywhere you look at it, the base is very low. So everything can improve. So there's a lot of opportunity for, especially for people to even to make money. Today, if you take the interest rates, right? The bank interest rates are now dropped to about 7-8% fixed deposits, right? And plus you have to pay your taxes on that. So you might be ending up with 5 or 6% only. But in stock market, if you properly invest, even your dividend can bring in that amount straight away. Then on top of that, whatever is the capital gains. And this is the only investment at the moment is tax-free. So 100% tax-free, like, whatever business or in professional you are there, you have to pay at least 30% tax. So I don't know for how long, but this is going to be there. At the moment, you have to make use of it.
Sorry. So, there's a good point. Even if you see around the room here, but overall in Sri Lanka, a lot of our big businesses are family-owned and multi-generational family-owned. So I think there is a hesitancy there to go into the stock market. It is like the deep blue sea that no one wants to kind of explore. So I think that's something that some businesses should really look into. I think we also had quite a chat about that as well, how to expand your business or how to bring in, it's not even that, it's bringing in other expertise into your business, right? And not having the fear of change. What are some of the positive and negative factors you see that may affect the market going forward?
Okay. Locally, if
we won't quote you on this, but it's just for general advice.
If they derail from this IMF program and make major changes, then that can affect the market. But at this moment, I don't see, because most of the difficult areas are already done. So I'm sure, if they want to do, they would have done straight away before the general election. They would have said, we want to change this and done it. We want to get the votes. But now they have gone through. That means they are committed, right? And they know there's no other second option for us, right? And if you want to do well, we have to get the credit ratings. Foreign investments has to come. That sentiment and the foreign. So I'm sure they will do a good job, because they are all new but educated, right? They're not corrupted. That's the main thing. So sometimes we say people who are experienced, but the experienced also have not done a good job, right? So hopefully we'll give a chance. So that's one area I'm looking here, anything to go wrong in that sense. Internationally, I don't know. I'm worried about the US debt situation. Right, they're having about 35 trillion, their debts have gone up. It's about more than 120% debt to GDP. Like we were around that 10, now we have come down to below 100. But they are in that situation already, and they are paying over 1.5 trillion as the interest. So that's one area. I think Trump and Elon Musk also have been put into an area to bring down the expenses and cut down. So that's where they'll have to, so next 2 years I don't see a problem, but if they keep continuing, right, their budget, they never had a surplus for the last 25 years. So they are increasing the debts and going. So that's one big area that can happen, not now, but had to be watchful of something on that. That's a bigger problem.
Would you prefer, in the current market situation, some big ticket IPOs coming into it, or several smaller players to boost market dynamics?
We need both, the big and the small, because there are a lot of small timers who are finding sometimes difficult to get borrowings or whatever. So this is one option to come to the market where they have get access, easy access for funding, and it's like zero cost. So also we'll have to understand a company coming in, generally, now if you want to be a shareholder for, let's say, Brandix or Mars or something like that, it's not easy. We can't, right? If whatever price we pay, even we can't go into these things. But once they come in, we're also getting that honor, like to be a part of those companies and to get a small stake. And when they come, and they also won't price it just right to the market, because these companies are built up over 20, 30, 40 years. Right, and they will want a reasonable price, not overpriced, but a reasonable price to let go something. And most of these listings are not that they take money for the directors. These are new shares are issued. So that means this money goes for further expansion of the business, right? So that means the business is going to grow, get better and bigger. So initially you might see sometimes the IPOs coming can be like overpriced, but we are getting an opportunity at least for those companies to come in first. And thereafter they will grow much bigger. If you see companies like the 7 companies I mentioned, right, our PE ratio now 7-8 times we are talking. These companies are like 60, 70, 80 times PE ratios. And our market price to book value is just exactly one, right? But some of these companies are going at 60, 70 times, right? Like, like Tesla's and all, like, Apple is about 60 times price to book value. So there are different ways of calculating. It's not one way of price to book value and PE ratio, right? You have to look at the future growth. Some are light asset models are there, like Airbnb, they don't have like assets, like Uber, right? In those kinds of businesses, it's difficult to value. Like sometimes you'll have to give a much high price to, that's how their business model is. So that's how it works.
Previously, there was state-funded participation in the stock market, and now in Sri Lanka. And how do you think the market can be better structured to have increased state fund participation?
Yeah, so we have a state fund of EPF and ETF together about 5 trillion. Out of that, in the market, they are just less than 100 billion they had invested, and this was long time ago, like, more than 10 years, actually they have not been in the market. So what they bought, like, long time ago, I've been still holding, and they are not reposition their portfolio or anything, just keeping it, because with political issues coming about, earlier manipulations and that kind of dumping and all that. So they have been not having a free hand. So what they have to do is get a good management. So you can't be forever be out of the market. Market is giving good returns, and they are complaining that the fund EPF holders are not getting a good return. So this is one place. If you see any other funds, at least 30-40% of the fund is invested in the equity market, and the balance only in fixed these things like in bonds or this. So like going forward, even the bond market, now currently bond market is quite big in Sri Lanka also. If you see on a weekly basis, at least about 150 billion is subscribed. I mean, it's wanted, but it's subscribed at least 2 times more than that. So that amount of money is available in the market. But our turnover in the equity market is just 2-3 billion a day. So that means 10-15 billion a week. But in the bond market, you get about 300-400 billion money coming in, right? So that's one area. But going on the long term, once this debt restructuring and everything is done, the requirement for bonds might come down, like especially like the interest rates like coming down, interest commitment coming down, like state enterprises going at losses, making profits now. So you don't need those money. Like at one time they were losing like 700-800 billion and getting money from the treasury. So at least 3-4 major ones like Sri Lankan Airlines, Electricity Board, the petroleum, all that. So now those have become profitable. Now they can give money back to the government. So it's like a switch off over like 1 trillion now. So then the requirement for bond market also will come down going forward. Then there won't be, like EPF funds will have to come into the equity market. So when they come, that's why the market will get pushed up again. I mean, not only the EPF, ETF, I'm saying many funds are out will be investing, like the foreigners will come in at one point. As I said, diaspora can come, private funds to all these we are running this market without all this at this moment. And still we are having now we are having about 6-7 billion kind of a turnover as levels have come. So just imagine once the rating is done and the foreigners really can come and invest, right? At this moment there are some foreigners are coming. Those are not big institutions. I mean, they can't come and invest in a country like that with a default rating. So once they are open, money can flow in, and that's the time the market is going to again take off to another level.
So the potential is really quite large, right? That's happening.
Yeah, so when I said the market is now around 7 to 8 times PE, our average, like we have gone up to 13, 14. That means easily it can double to go to the normal average. But as I said, sometimes it can go even beyond that. Like the time we went in 2009. So let's say if it goes to 25 or 29 times, market can be even 50,000, the ASPI.
People be
So I'm just saying it's not going to happen immediately. It can take even 2 years, 5 years time. But there's nothing to question. I'm prepared for that. But a lot of people, every 1,000 points, they're going to ask a lot of questions. Ask, why is the market going up? Why is the market going up? Because we know market has so much room to go up. It has not gone there. So for me, there's no question of why. For me, why it's not going up there. But others outside who are looking at it, they'll think every day market is going up, it's going to crash any moment. It's going to crash any moment. So there are some different criteria there. There are small different types of boards in the stock exchange. There's a main board, secondary board, like there is a board. So even if I'm not mistaken, 20 million or 50 million, I think even 20 million, there is a small SME board with 20 to 50 million, I think if I'm not mistaken, also can be listed today. And for those kinds of companies, I think even a 10% listing is also possible. But if you're in the main board, you have to have minimum 20% float, public float has to be there. You have to sell 20%, and you can hold maximum of 80. Other than that, earlier they used to have like 3 years continuous profits and all those things were there, but I think the smaller boards, I think they're taken off some of the criterias. It's much easier, I think, if you go and get the details, it's not that difficult when a small company can be listed now.
Do you have any idea of the 22 million people, how many are in the stock market as shareholders or not shareholders?
Investors.
And I'm sure they are all probably Western province or Colombo district based. Do you see the potential of this being taken outside Colombo and having a bigger, if the market has to grow and all these things have to happen? The government also is saying the economy has to be not Colombo, Western province centric. So very clearly there are things that are going to happen outside Colombo, outside the Western province. Is there a way that this can be mirrored, and do you think there is potential for the stock market to go outside?
Yeah, of course. So there are registered investors with about 700 to 800,000 investors that can be with multiple accounts. But active investors, let's say at least once a month, who are one trade a month, who are trading, is about, I think, about close to 70, 80,000, or much less, about 30,000 if I'm mistaken. And much regular traders are about 15,000, I think. Those are the ballpark numbers. But there are, CAC has a lot of programs. They take it to a lot of outstation and they educate. And there are seminars and programs. And now in schools also in the curriculum, it's going to come about stock market. So that is happening at the moment. But it's a long way to go. There's so much of scope for people. Actually, our financial literacy is very low. People don't understand about investment. Still, a lot of people are scared about stock market. What is this investment? Right? They are still used to only a fixed deposit. They know to just go put the money in fixed deposit and wait for 1 year, take the interest, and you don't see it with the inflation where they are getting the right numbers or nothing. So that's how people are just used to the easy way. Or the other easiest way that they go is just trust someone and give 5 million, 10 million, 100 million and say he's doing well, and then come to know it's a fraud and you're just cheated for 5 billion and that's it. So people are ready to take that amount of risk. But in stock market, I have not seen a company like going down in the past 5 years. I don't see a company that went bankrupt. Right? So there are, for certain reasons, maybe some companies are put into watch list. That's because for the last quarter, they are not submitted the financials, or the annual report is not this thing. Or sometimes there can be certain queries on the accounts and the auditors have queried about it, on those asking for reasons that they have holding it back. But other than that, I don't see like companies just have like gone bankrupt and lost 100% of your investment, right, in stock market. You can use people what here is like you lost 10%, 30%, 40% with a crash, or sometimes you have 10 shares and out of the 10, maybe 2 or 3 shares have gone down 20, 30%. But they don't talk about the other 6, 7 where you made profit. Or you would have made profit in the same company, right? You are averaging it and you're buying and going on. And at some point you buy and that price has come down. So, but you forget the same share you have bought and sold so many times and made profit on that one. You talk about the last purchase, what you bought and sold, and talking about the bad story on that side of it. So those are the stories that you hear about the bad side of the stock market, that I lost money. And sometimes markets, 6 months, it can be a bad downturn, right? So then you'll have to have that patience to wait during that time. Or if it's a really a good company, you can average it down, right? Or otherwise you cut it off. If you have good principles, like, at 7, 8, 10%, you must cut off a bad stock and come out of it at the right time. Not allow losses to continue till 30, 40% and hold. So most of the people, they make mistakes is, they hold on to a losing stock until 30, 40% and keep it in the portfolio and wait and until it comes back to square one and see another 5% return and then want to sell there. And the opposite, where another share which is going up and already started moving 10%, 20%, and you're ready to quickly sell that off. And then you realize after you sold, that share has gone up 60, 70, 80%. So your theory should be, if you are a good company is going up, you hold it and sell small portions. So let's say you start selling 5% of when it's moving up, then sell another 5 or 10% at another higher level, and slowly average it up going upwards. And you don't try to sell a good company quickly, right? But most of the time what they do is, as soon as they see a 2% or 5% or 10%, they want to quickly come out of that stock. And they allow the losses to continue and they don't mind waiting on that for years and years even.
Hi. So, regard to everything about stock market, so I think what each 110 is to get to this directly opinion on this. I think education on this topic is on smacking in a lot of areas, because see, as you would speaker to their money FTAs, they know what they're getting. So now they're the money market accounts as well, so they know you're getting this much in a percentage and you can be brought time. So personally, I invested in one IPO that got interest that I don't make people also got 10%. I didn't touch the after that, and also the common perception is that if you have their money, we went to Zapan. So I think, and I think a good purpose is that people do not know what their exact dynamic is which drives the stock up or down. So you can see of community, how much they, how often they carry leaders, speculation and other factors. The people do not know why exactly the mechanism is. So, and also add to the fact that the market has been down for a while, so because of that macro knowledge, I think that spot where people have a perception where it's always a risk to put your portfolio inside a stock.
So always you have to get a good advice from a good investment advisor, from a good stock brokering. That's number one. And not only depend only on that advice, you will have to do your own analysis, do your own research, and make sure that advice is correct, and you make the final decision, and you have to monitor that, and also do the as like what you said, the earnings will have to be looked at, whether the management is good, the product is good, the company has been there for a long time, right? Whether they have good prospects to go forward. There are some companies they are very old. Sometimes they're very old management. The ways of thinking is like, they want to just hold on to the building and machinery and just hold on, just keeping the listing and nothing much happens in those companies. But there are certain companies, maybe the younger generation have come and taking it to another level, or there are companies with good professional managers they have hired, good CEOs, and they drive those companies.
Right?
So in your opinion, to a layer who has no idea August, if you would just in like say two sentences, take it what determines the price of stock that both we use. So like that's what people actually they might want to know when they don't want to, they ask that question.
So one is the PE ratio, like that's the earnings ratio, like there's a other one if you want to look at dividends, dividend counter means that's dividend this thing, but basically price to book and earnings is the two main things that they look at, but that's not the only thing. So that's the main one of those things, but again, just because the PE ratio is low, it doesn't mean that share is cheap also, right? That's because in different sectors are there, so different sectors have different PE ratios. Some can be it can be even valued at even 15, 20, 30 times, right? Like even like companies like Pick Me and all, they have come in now, but they are like, those companies are like looked at in a different way. Like internet companies will be looked at in a different way. But there are certain other sectors which will be have cyclical, like, one quarter will do bad, another quarter they'll come, right? But overall average, they'll do a average kind of a business. So that you'll have to understand. So in one quarter, the prices can come down when they give a bad reporting. So that's why I'm telling, when you come for investing, it should take a long horizon and at least 2-3 year period. And if you are someone investing for 2-3 years or 5 years, I don't think so anyone would have lost money in this thing. But coming for 3 months, yes, you can say that I lost money in there.
You took one of my wrap-up questions, so thanks. Have any other questions? Because we will be wrapping up soon. So anyone else has any other questions? For participation in the markets, how is women's participation? What are the barriers to entry that can do more women should be involved?
It's a good question. Like we had not done any analysis on that, but there's a lot of scope. I think this is one area for women to take part in a bigger way, because most of the men are quite busy with their own. They have their own businesses, and they manage, and they don't have time. So they will just give the funds to a fund manager or to a broker and say, okay, look after this thing, and once in a way they'll look at their portfolio. But the women folks can have a lot of time if they're not working, if they have some little accounting knowledge, understand about it, go for a small course and understand. You can do your homework, and plus you can be a good investor, right? Because you can advise get the money from husbands or father and, manage their portfolio. So that's the area I think we should promote. Even Sri Lanka also, I think that's one area we should look at for them to come in. And there's a lot of scope, I think, which is not utilized properly.
Katik Sajikit asked you about advice, but two in your 5 minutes. So I was actually, that's a two-part question. One would be, what are the three, you've already answered this, what are the 3 parameters that you would look into before investing, for considering an investment? And second one be, what's 3 pieces of advice you give an investor, potential investor, before entering an investment?
So basically, I will look at a company, I'll study, I'll take time before we go into a new investment. We'll watch that company for a while, go through all the financials, read all the annual reports, the chairman's reports or CEO reports, and check their market trends, whether they are performing well, the potential is there in those kind of companies to grow. So these metrics will have to be gone through and passed, first. And then look at the valuations and see whether the prices are right for that company at this moment, or whether it's as I said, if it's a cyclical kind of a time, like we might have to wait for a while to buy those at different times. Always you say buy low and sell high, right? So when the markets are bad, when people are worried, and if you feel like the market is now gone high or something, so or the other way around, when the markets are down, that's the time you should jump in and without asking too many questions to get into the market. But most of the time what happens is, when you give advice to buy at that time, they say, no, we'll wait, it will go down further, let's wait, and nothing happens. And when it's gone up, and when everyone is talking at the cocktails and weddings and parties, and that's the time they say, market is doing well, no, I can see in the headlines, market is doing well, can I come and meet you, can you invest? So that's the wrong thing that people do that mistake. So yeah, so to buy a company, we'll look at all these P ratios, price to book value, dividend yields, there are different metrics are there. We'll have to go into that and check. The advice I would say is start early, put in a certain amount, and do your own research, spend a little time. And from my experience, it can take time. So it's, as I said now, when I came and invested in 2012, it took me almost 8 years to make a decent amount of profit. Not that time, when it came, I would say even more than 500% would have gone up in that period. So that's the cycle, that's the time that we'll have to give and wait for it. So if you know that potential, now even I know certain of my companies which I'm holding, it can go up another 100, 200%. So I'm waiting for that. If it goes another 30% tomorrow, I'm not ready to sell. So, but a lot of people will do the opposite. So that's why we'll have to get trained into that, and you have to control your emotions, and you have to be disciplined, and not overtrade, and try to keep it under control in a nice way. If you do it, you will enjoy and you can make money.